You ever get the feeling she's judging you but not out loud? Like there's something happening beneath the surface, but you can't quite name it. When it comes to female desire, especially after 35, most men are navigating blind. There's a deeper sociosexual truth at play, one most never learn and fewer survive. This isn't about pickup lines or chasing validation. It's about masculine clarity, self-respect, and finally, seeing the unspoken tests that define how women choose and how they disconnect. And the twist? You won't hear it when you fail. Just distance, a gaze that shifts, a warmth that's gone. This is where strategic masculinity begins. A modern man doesn't beg to be chosen. He understands the rules, reclaims emotional discipline, and holds his inner strength like a sword. And if you miss even one of these 7 truths, you'll keep asking the wrong questions and wondering why the answers never come. If this message already makes more sense than anything you've heard lately, like finally, take a second to like, comment, or share. That one move might help someone else wake up too. Let's go deeper into what no one ever explained, starting with the first truth that flips the entire script. You'll never see female behavior the same way again. The unspoken truth behind female desire after 35. Most men think they're being chosen. The truth? They're being measured, quietly, continuously. And especially after she turns 35, the metrics change, but no one tells you what they are. You feel it in how her gaze lingers, or doesn't. You notice it when your effort suddenly gets cold responses. What you're missing is female desire through a mature lens. It's no longer about attraction, it's about value perception. And here's the problem. If you don't know the new rules, you're already losing a game you didn't know started. You're not competing with other men, not directly. You're competing with a mental image she's been building for years, an ideal, a composite of the highs she's experienced and the lows she swore she'd never relive. This creates an invisible comparison you can't see but are constantly judged by. That's what most men don't get. And after 35, this comparison sharpens. She's no longer curious. She's conclusive. She doesn't explore anymore. She filters, fast, ruthlessly, silently. You're either aligned with her filters or discarded through silent rejection. You want honesty? Here it is. Women after 35 don't want potential. They want emotional authority. Not promises, not plans, proof. Can you lead without controlling? Stay present without chasing? Hold space without collapsing? That's what activates female desire at this stage. And here's the kicker. If you're not bringing that, she'll know. Instantly. Not through logic, but through instinct. The same instinct that's been shaped by heartbreak, motherhood, divorce, disappointment, or just watching too many men fail their own masculine frame. Most men keep looking for what to say. But the truth is, she's watching how you move, how you react to pressure, how you carry yourself when her attention wavers. That's the real unspoken test. And after 35, those tests become more subtle and more serious. A misplaced joke, a moment of neediness, a passive-aggressive tone. You won't get called out, you'll get shut out. Fast. That's what makes these tests dangerous. You don't even know you're being tested until you've failed, and now she's emotionally gone. Let's make something clear. This isn't about fearing women. It's about finally understanding them. No more walking on eggshells, no more guessing games. You need a map. And that's what this is. Think of this as the Socratic manual no one gave you, the breakdown of 7 real, raw truths behind how female desire shifts with time, trauma, and maturity. Not because they change, but because they see clearer. And when women see clearer, men must evolve or get filtered out with the rest. You know that phrase, it's not you, it's me? After 35, it's almost always you, not in a blameful way, but in a pattern way. Your lack of emotional discipline, your dependency, your absence of inner strength, or your need to be understood instead of being respected. That's what makes her pull back. And she won't explain it. You'll just feel it, like gravity shifting and you being pulled out of her orbit without warning. You'll try harder, speak softer, overgive, and none of it will work. Here's what makes this even more brutal. She's not doing it maliciously. In fact, she may not even be fully aware she's doing it. That's how deep behavioral psychology runs. The mind records pain, it remembers patterns, it builds protections. And by 35, those protections become selection systems. You don't get her heart by being sweet. You get it by being solid. Not louder, just deeper. Rooted. Calm. And most importantly, strategically masculine. Because at this stage, what she truly desires is a man who doesn't chase her, but one who doesn't flinch when she walks away. Ever notice how some women seem warm at first, and then something changes? It's subtle. You didn't say anything offensive, you didn't touch her the wrong way, but somehow the temperature dropped. That's the result of failing an unspoken test. These tests aren't pass-fail in a textbook sense, they're instinctual. When she feels you're over-explaining, oversharing, or subtly seeking validation, she doesn't argue. She just recalibrates your place in her mind. And what was once a spark quickly fades into polite disinterest. That's why you can't fake it. You might memorize clever phrases, you might learn how to not care, but if your nervous system is screaming for approval underneath, she'll feel it. That's why emotional detachment isn't about being cold, it's about being centered. Unshaken, not numb, but grounded. If you're externally calm but internally chaotic, it leaks. Women after 35 have seen that too many times. They know the mask. They recognize performance, and they don't reward actors. They wait for the truth over comfort. Here's a mental image. Imagine she's holding an invisible scale. On one side, your presence. On the other, your need. When your need outweighs your presence, she withdraws. Always. It's not conscious, it's primal. Her body responds before her brain can explain. That's dominant psychology at work. Not about control over her, but control over yourself. That's what she's looking for without knowing how to ask. Can you hold space without begging to be seen? Can you be still while she's chaotic? That's strength. Remember, female standards shift with experience. At 21, she might have wanted charm, status, or good conversation. By 35, she's scanning for solidity, for masculine clarity. Not the man with the best pitch, but the one with the most presence. And that presence doesn't come from talking. It comes from being. So ask yourself, where in your life are you solid? Where do you wobble? Because if you're unstable in your decisions, unsure of your mission, or inconsistent in your habits, she'll sense it. Fast. You're not just being compared to other men, you're being compared to her ex, to the man she almost married, to the one who ghosted her, and to the one who made her feel alive but also unsafe. This is the invisible comparison no one tells you about. It's not fair, but it's real. You're stepping into a battlefield with ghosts you've never met. That's why understanding hypergamy isn't about resentment. It's about awareness. She's not choosing you alone. She's comparing how you make her feel to every man who failed her. And yet, here's the twist most men miss. She doesn't want to dominate you. She wants to feel safe surrendering to your lead. But surrender is only possible when she senses you won't collapse under pressure. That's what strategic masculinity provides. Not brute force, not loud talk, but emotional consistency. That's why your mood swings, your passive blame, your avoidance tactics, they kill attraction without a word. The moment she feels you can't lead yourself, she knows she'll have to lead. And that's when desire dies. You want to know what really turns her on after 35? Self-respect. A man who doesn't break his word to himself. A man who doesn't chase. Who can be kind but not soft. Present but not reactive. That kind of man is rare. And when she meets him, something opens. Something instinctual. This is the relationship polarity she craves but doesn't know how to ask for. You don't become this man by force. You become him by subtracting everything that makes you unstable, needy, or confused. That's the path. Now here's where most men crack. They believe if they just explain themselves, they'll be understood. But female desire after 35 isn't activated by clarity of words. It's activated by clarity of being. You don't need better arguments. You need better embodiment. The irony is, the more you explain, the more she sees the cracks. If she senses you're trying to earn her understanding, you've already lost emotional leverage. That's why the man who says little but radiates certainty wins, without ever having to convince her of anything. She doesn't want to explain what turns her off, and honestly, she probably can't, not fully. That's the nature of sociosexual truth. It lives in the body, not the brain. She just feels something is off. Maybe it's how you waited for her approval. Maybe it's how your voice lowered when she challenged you. She may smile, nod, even say, "It's fine." But if your presence dropped to even 5%, she felt it. That tiny drop communicates more than your best logic ever will. In moments like that, she's subconsciously scanning for one thing. Are you the type of man who recalibrates or crumbles? That's where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes magnetism. The ability to hold yourself steady, not as a cold wall, but as grounded energy. This is when she feels your inner strength, not because you flex it, but because you don't abandon it. And this makes all the difference between a man who is tested and a man who is chosen. And here, a quick but important pause. If this kind of content is making you sit differently, if it's hitting deeper than the usual surface level advice, then don't scroll away. This isn't just another video, it's a toolkit. And these truths, they've been hidden in plain sight. If you're starting to recognize your past mistakes in this, or finally understand why some women went cold for no reason, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment right now. Because the next truth is where everything really shifts. And if you miss it, you'll keep falling into the same trap, again and again. She doesn't want to carry the weight of being the emotionally grounded one. At 25, she might have tolerated your outbursts or emotional volatility. But after 35, she's tired. Her tolerance is low. She needs a man who can regulate himself, not one who leans on her to do it for him. This is where emotional discipline becomes non-negotiable. She doesn't want to fix you. She wants to trust you. And trust doesn't come from sweetness. It comes from emotional detachment in the face of her chaos. You've probably been told that being emotionally available is the key. But here's the truth. No one says out loud. Female desire isn't drawn to availability. It's drawn to emotional authority. Availability without boundaries feels needy. Authority with empathy feels magnetic. And that authority shows up in how you handle tension. Can you hold your line when she tests your patience? Can you stay calm when she's storming? She doesn't want a therapist. She wants a man with spine, one who won't collapse under emotional heat. Let's flip the perspective for a moment. Imagine her dating history. She's been through charmers, manipulators, soft guys, tough guys, and now she's refined. Her radar is sharp. She notices when your compliments are tools for validation. She sees when you're mirroring her instead of expressing yourself. She's scanning for realness, for congruence, and when she senses weakness wrapped in performance, she doesn't argue. She just closes the door. That's why self-respect must be visible. It's not enough to have it. She has to feel it. Let's talk strategy, not games. Strategic masculinity is about playing the long game without losing yourself in it. When you meet a woman over 35, you're not meeting a blank slate. You're meeting a woman who's had her illusions shattered. Her standards are sharper, her wounds closer to the surface, and her time more valuable. She doesn't have space for indecision or emotional freeloaders. What she's silently craving is a man who can stand firm, not flinch in the fire, and lead, not control, through the chaos of connection. She doesn't want to mother you. That instinct might have ruled her 20s, but not anymore. After 35, the maternal reflex fades in romantic contexts. What she wants now is a masculine frame so steady that she can relax into her own femininity. You don't earn that by being nice. You earn it by being non-reactive. If your emotional state is constantly swayed by hers, you become her child, not her man. And once she sees you that way, female desire disappears completely, often for good. Think of her like a tuning fork. When you're calm, focused, and grounded, she mirrors it. But if you're anxious, insecure, or overcompensating, she picks up on it in seconds. That's the reality of behavioral psychology. Microsignals create macro decisions. Her desire is not just emotional, it's physiological. She needs to feel your steadiness at a nervous system level. That means practicing stillness, breath control, presence, not for her, but for you. Because when your center is real, you don't need to say a word. Let me tell you a quick story. Matt, 39, divorced, 2 kids. Every relationship after his divorce failed the same way. He'd meet a woman, things would go well, then, out of nowhere, she'd grow distant, cold, unavailable. He blamed them for being unpredictable. Until one day, a friend told him to stop explaining and start observing. He learned to hold space, to stop over-talking, to stop seeking approval. And slowly, women stopped leaving. Why? Because he stopped failing the unspoken tests before they even began. Matt's transformation wasn't magic. It was emotional leverage. He learned that he doesn't need to force attraction. He needs to cultivate gravity. Women didn't start chasing him. They started trusting him. That's the difference. When a man radiates certainty, he stops competing. He becomes a reference point. The one who doesn't shift when she does. That's when female selection favors you, because suddenly you're not an option in her emotional chaos. You're the anchor she didn't realize she needed until she felt it. The truth is, she's not looking for a solution to her past. She's looking for a new future that doesn't repeat the same patterns. And that begins with male value, not as status or wealth, but as your ability to walk away from anything that threatens your peace. And that's real value. When a woman senses that, she leans in. Respect precedes desire, and no amount of flowers, texts, or romantic gestures can replace that. You either embody it, or you get replaced by someone who does. After 35, there's no more time for potential. She's not waiting for you to figure it out. She's watching who you are right now, and if who you are today can't hold who she's become, she's gone. Quietly, gracefully. That's the cruel part of silent rejection. You'll rarely see it coming, and she'll never explain it. You'll just notice she stopped reaching out, stopped laughing at your jokes, stopped leaning in, and all you'll be left with is confusion, unless you've read the manual. And that manual, it's not a script, it's a mirror. It reflects where you still negotiate your own standards, where you leak energy, and where you still seek to be chosen instead of choosing yourself. This is the essence of truth over comfort. Most men want to be reassured, few want to be confronted, but confrontation is what builds men. And once you step into that space, something shifts, not just in her, but in you. That's when female desire stops being a mystery and starts becoming a response. The pain most men feel isn't about rejection, it's about being misaligned with reality. We're told women want vulnerability. but what they respond to is emotional authority. We're told to be communicative, but what they crave is grounded presence. This disconnect creates frustration, confusion, even rage. But beneath all that is a choice. Keep playing a game you don't understand, or evolve into a man who no longer needs to play. And that evolution begins by embracing the sociosexual truth most are too scared to face. When you stop chasing approval, you start reclaiming energy. That's the first shift. The second is this. You realize women don't owe you anything. Not desire, not softness, not patience. It's your masculine clarity that earns those responses, not your effort. That clarity gets expressed in your tone, your posture, your choices, and even your silence, especially your silence. A man who knows his value doesn't argue to be kept. He simply is. And in that, he becomes the selection, not the seeker. This is why emotional detachment isn't apathy. It's alignment. It's you realizing that her tests are not attacks. They're reflections of your strength, of your gaps, of your work. And if you don't overreact to them, if you don't take them personally, they stop feeling like chaos and start feeling like feedback. That's the shift from confusion to awareness, from emotional boy to grounded man. And once that shift happens, her female desire becomes something you can understand, not chase. There's a quiet power in not needing her to explain what she wants, in simply noticing, reading energy, tracking patterns. That's when you go from reactive to proactive. From emotional follower to strategic masculinity, you start anticipating dynamics before they unfold. You don't get caught off guard by her mood swings. You stay anchored. You don't try to fix her storms. You observe them. And in that stillness, she finds safety. Not because you solved her, but because you didn't dissolve under pressure. Now, let's bring it full circle. Female desire after 35 is not less powerful. It's more focused, more refined. It's not about being impressed. It's about being safe, being seen, and most of all, being able to relax into her feminine energy without questioning yours. That requires stoicism, not as emotional suppression, but as emotional mastery. She needs to feel that your peace is real, that your self-worth isn't negotiable. And once she senses that, she doesn't just want you, she respects you, deeply. This isn't about changing who you are, it's about becoming who you stopped being. The man before the conditioning, before the people-pleasing, before the emotional leaks. That version of you isn't lost, he's buried. Under bad advice, outdated beliefs, and years of misalignment. But when you return to him, something unlocks. You stop seeking love as a reward. You start attracting connection as a reflection of your own inner strength. That's where real polarity lives. Not in pretending, but in returning. And here's what most never realize. You don't need to be perfect to be desired. You just need to be stable, grounded, clear. You don't have to say all the right things. You just have to mean what you say. That's the difference. Women don't want performance. They want presence. And the moment you understand that, you stop asking, what do women want? And start becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to ask. That's not game. That's mastery. You've just unpacked truths that most men will live their whole lives avoiding. So now, the real question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to keep asking the same questions and repeating the same reactions? Or are you ready to sit with what you've learned and let it reshape the way you lead, relate, and show up? Because female desire isn't a puzzle, it's a mirror. And every time she goes silent, every time she pulls away, every time things suddenly change, it's reflecting something inside you. So ask yourself, where are you leaking power to be liked? Where are you folding when tested? Where are you still asking for permission to be a man? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Seriously. Say something real. Share what hit the hardest. Your voice might unlock something in someone else. Just write this below. No more silent rejection. Let that be your line in the sand. And if you made it all the way here, I want to genuinely thank you. That tells me you're not just curious, you're committed. So do this now. Hit that like button, share this video with a man who needs this clarity, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning. More is coming.